The choices you make are never really your own choices, and in this video I'm going to dive into why that is, so make sure you stick around for the entire video because you're not going to want to miss any of this. So let's dive in. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. For those that are new, my name is Christina and I help empower people on their spiritual and healing journey so they have a more fulfilling and purposeful driven life. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so you're actually notified of when I post a video. So with all that out of the way now, let's get straight on. Your choices are never really your own. And the reason behind this is because we make choices out of either fear or lack of awareness. The reason why we have lack of awareness and we make choices out of our desires, our ego, is because we have been programmed since birth with a lot of beliefs. From the moment we get born into a fear-based environment, bright lights everywhere, being rubbed down really hard as a baby. So instantly there's fear instilled within our psyche, our human body. And as we age, when we develop and our sense of self is formed, we are getting programmed with all of our conditioned beliefs about the world, about ourselves. And I refer to this as the internal matrix. We have the external 3D reality matrix that we currently are in that programs us to have fear-based beliefs. So when we have all of these beliefs, we believe that that's who I am, that's my identity, and we get programmed through our culture, through society, religion, families, things that just get passed down generations, and that's the way of living in your culture, your religion maybe. So these traditions and beliefs get passed down onto us, and what happens is we make choices based on our subconscious beliefs that we have made, but we never really question it. So this means the choices that you and I both make are never really our own. It's not coming from our true soul self, and it's coming from the ego mind, because the ego is driven by desires, and it's also that it's been programmed with this is the way of things, this is what you must do in order to do X, Y, and Z, achieve this, raise children this way, do whatever it may be. So for example, like I just said with raising children, when it comes to me as a mother, I have chosen to do things differently. I have chosen to be a more conscious parent. And this is where cycle breaking comes into play. Whether you're a parent or not, if you choose to make a different choice, not one that everybody else believes you must make, then that means you have more self-awareness and you're making conscious choices to do things differently. So often in society, it tells us that you must go to your 9-to-5 job. There's the 9-to-5 system. Children must go to school soon as they reach whatever age it is in your country that children go to school. Or when it comes to the parenting, children must be seen and not heard and respected and they must respect the adult. These are all conditioned beliefs that society has told us, and the 3D reality matrix or our cultures, it's labelled as culture, but it's probably a little bit of trauma and extremism, but we never question it, and because that's how it's just been. So when you make the choices out of your beliefs that you've been programmed with, it's never really your true self unless you have the conscious awareness that you've been able to make a decision that isn't going along with the story, the narrative that you have been told, however many generations it has been, that way of living, that way of being has been played out in your family or in society. So this means a cycle breaker will question people's choices before, because all the choices that have been made are usually out of fear of death, because of two things are happening here. The ego fears death, and also the matrix wants you to fear death itself. So anything related to death is a fear-based program. When it comes to somebody using a false belief system or manipulation to make you fear death. So this means our choices are always out of survival. Our choices come from our ego's drive to be successful and survive, because we're told that survival of the fittest. And what does that usually mean? In a modern society, it usually means having the fancy car, having the money, having X, Y, and Z, but this is unconscious behaviors, and so it is driven by ego desires, our fears of dying, because our roots there that we must survive, just like in the tribe, are still within our DNA. So this means you'll still have that drive to go and buy whatever it is that you believe will keep you alive, because we've collectively agreed that we have to compete to survive. So all these things, these materialistic things, often mean that we are the winner, we will survive because we have the most abundance. And that's simply not true. So when we have all of these fears, our choices will be driven by fear. And so this means when the cycle breaker, when that one person comes along with the conscious awareness, they have more self-aware of their conscious decisions, they won't go along with that same fear-based narrative that most of society has been programmed with. So now I just want to dive into the reason why we don't make the conscious choices for ourselves. And one of them is that it's based on survival. We just want to survive, so we follow the crowd, because if we don't, that may mean that we're outcast, and that it might mean death. So the second reason why our choices are not really our own choices is because society has kind of collective trauma, and so it lacks a sense of self. As an individual person, they might lack a sense of self, and the sense of self is like who I am as a person. Am I able to think for myself, what this world is telling me about myself? And this all kind of forms our beliefs and our egos. And so if you lack a sense of self or have an unhealthy sense of self, this means you may look to other people for guidance. You may look to other people to give you validation of who you are. You don't have a strong sense of like who you are and identity. So then you join the collective hive mind. So what happens? We have a collective hive mind where everybody just does the same thing, follows the same fear-based narratives, and doesn't actually think for themselves and make their own conscious choices. And so this means a person who doesn't have a strong sense of self may lack the individuation. This means they lack a sense of an individual person. This is me as an individual person. So they follow what everybody else may do. I just want to make a side note though. We are, as a consciousness, one collective consciousness, but as a human being, we are individual humans that are able to make conscious, self-aware choices for ourselves. And when we don't do that, we end up looking for things for us all to join in and follow the crowd. And you may have heard of the term the bystander effect. The bystander effect is simply where there's bystanders, maybe, for example, at an incident or an accident, and they're all stood there watching, and not one person moves to go and help. Because what happens is that they're all thinking that somebody else is going to do it. So nobody takes that leap, nobody goes and helps whatever's going on in that instant, maybe. And so this is a kind of a good example of where we collectively just follow the crowd because we don't want to step out of the norm and be this one on the spot looking like an idiot, whatever it is. So we hold ourselves back and don't think for ourselves. We don't make the conscious choice to go and help. We don't make the conscious choice to follow a different way of being. So this is just why our choices are never really our own. It's always somebody else's choice. And another good example here could be if your parents got married at a young age, had children, then they bought their own house, or in that kind of similar order, and you go and do that same thing because that's just what they did. So you're not making your own choice to do that. You may not want to have a child at a young age or get married at a young age, but you don't make that conscious awareness that you're doing that because that's just what society tells you, or that's the way they've done it and your grandparents did it. So it's about beginning to make conscious decisions and coming out of our comfort zones and becoming more self-aware of your behaviors, your emotions and your actions, your choices that you make in order to break free of this hive mind and think for yourself. Because I can tell you, yes, people will not agree with you, but it's the most liberating thing you can do when you begin to step away from what people have told you should do, and you actually start making choices based on your own values, your own heart. You follow your heart, and so you live a life that is true to you and your true self, not society's view, not your parents' view, not this 3D reality matrix view. So let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on this video. And I'm over on Instagram, and sometimes there's stuff on there that I don't share on here, so please do follow me over on Instagram. My Instagram handle is in the description box below. So with that being said, I will see you in this video next. Much love.